Hello and welcome to a top 16 match between PONZA Zoo and Burn. But before we get into the video, I really would appreciate your feedback on these, whether you like them or not. I usually make deck techs and not gameplay videos, so your feedback really does help me to improve the videos, and I think every time I make one, they're a little bit better than before, so thank you everyone for bearing with me, and I really appreciate that feedback. So this is my deck. It's a red, green, white zoo build, which means it has lots of aggressive creatures. I've added a PONZA element, which is these 8 land destruction cards. They're really good for disrupting the opponent. In this matchup, they might be good against a 3-color deck, but I think the all-stars are going to be these big creatures that are hard to burn. If you'd like to learn more about this deck, I will have made a deck tech that should be uploaded by the time you see this video. And my opponent is on a burn deck that's absolutely full of removal. It also has 2 copies of the Abyss, which are absolutely brutal in this matchup, especially if they come down early, which they can due to the mana ramp aspect, which can also pump out huge fireballs, Suchis, or Triskelion. Triskelion is also very good against some of my smaller aggressive creatures, so this looks to be an interesting match. So deck lists are not open for this tournament, meaning we don't know what each other are playing. So I actually had no idea my opponent was on burn when we started to play this matchup. And opponent starts with a mulligan into a volcanic island. So at this point, volcanic island pass, I think maybe it's some kind of control deck, which can be quite popular in Xpoints. So I'm very happy with my start here of a Mox into a turn 1 Sylvan Library. This card is excellent against control. It can just really help me to draw a ton of extra cards and really pull ahead. When I see opponent ramping out with a Felwar Stone here, I continue to think, yeah, this is probably some kind of control list, or maybe it could be a blue-red artifact kind of deck. I'm really not sure. So I take a while here, and I believe I just take 1 card. So yeah, I just take 1, and then I play a Curd Ape, and use the rest of my mana to play a Chaos Orb. This can be a little risky against some decks, especially because he can shatter it, and then I can't use it. Sometimes it's better to leave a mana open, but I just wanted to use all of my turn and the full resources that I have available. So we can see here opponent bolted my ape. At this point I'm really thinking it's definitely a control deck because, well, he's killing my creatures and not really doing much else. So let's see. So here I just take 1 again. And I'm going to play an Urnum Djinn. So this card is incredible against burn, and I'm really thinking he's going to counterspell it. When he doesn't, I feel very happy because I know how good this card is against burn decks, but I'm slightly worried about a control magic here because I really think he's on some kind of control list. So here we see a Psionic Blast against the Djinn, and a Fireball for 1. So I'm very happy with that exchange. It gave me a 2 for 1, and the opponent only has 1 card in hand now. So I'm feeling very happy because I think this is a control deck, and a control deck with only 1 card in hand is exactly where you want to be. So let's see. So in this case, I do take a card with Library. So we're seeing the card advantage there. I didn't realize my opponent's playing burn. It's a bit risky to go low on life against burn, but you know, at this point, 1 card in hand, 20 life, it's pretty safe. And we see a Preacher, and then I took 1 to play Alliance. So the reason why I took an extra card here is because I only had 2 white mana and I wanted to double spell. So I remember this part actually. I needed to take an extra card so that I could get that land to have 3 white mana. So I feel very confident here because Preacher is very good against that factory. If it turns into a creature, I can take it and then he won't get it back, which I remember we looked this up, and yeah, after looking it up, that is how it works, and so I attack with the Lion. At this point, I'm not really sure what's going on. My opponent doesn't really seem to be doing anything, so I feel fairly confident because I've got some very good cards in play, but I'm a little worried because I see 5 mana and I know some scary things can come down for 6. I'm always thinking about Triskelion, so you know, I know that when most decks that are just doing nothing hit 6 mana, it's probably time for a Triskelion to come down. I'm super happy that my Serra resolved here, and I'm really wondering, like, this is a very strange control deck. No counter spells so far, but actually it turned out my opponent just was unlucky and didn't draw any. I should have probably realized it was a burn deck, but you know, it is what it is. And here Trike comes down, absolutely devastating against my board, but luckily I do still have that Serra, so I still feel fairly confident. And yep, killing the lion straight away, it seems good. I think I would have just maybe killed the Preacher and then passed. So I respond to shooting the Preacher by trying to take a creature, meaning I'll be able to take the Trike and shoot him with it. But he responds to that with just shooting the Preacher, so nothing's going to happen here. And here I feel firmly ahead because I have a Serra Angel, I have a Chaos Orb, I have a library, and you know, as long as those other cards in hand aren't all super good, as long as there's no way to remove the Serra, I'm fairly far ahead here, I think. At end of turn, I'm thinking about orbing his Triskelion because I want to make the maximum use of my mana, and I'm worried about copy artifact. The reason why is because I have something very big. I have that Shivan Dragon in my hand, and I'm scared that I will cast the Shivan and then he'll copy artifact. The reason I'm thinking about this is because the opponent hasn't really done anything all game, and I'm really not sure what he's playing. So opponent goes down to 10. And I actually draw something else. I draw a Stone Rain, so I decide instead I'm just going to take him off the mana and leave the Chaos Orb up, because I'm already quite far ahead at this point, so there's no point getting greedy. So opponent thinks for a while and then attacks for 1. I think about blocking, but no, this is definitely a Bolt or a Chain Lightning or something. It's just not worth blocking, so in the end I decide to take 1. My life total is high enough and my opponent doesn't have enough mana for a Fireball, so I'm not really worried about getting burned out or something. And just losing my Serra, it's just really not what I want to do. If my opponent's attacking here, it's either a desperation move or it's just a super next level play trying to bluff a Bolt or something. And we see here that actually opponent has Animate Dead. So presumably wanted to take my Serra Angel because it's great. Luckily he goes for the Preacher instead of the Urnum, and I can just kill it straight away. So yeah, I decide to just take 1 every time at this point because my life total is low, and you know, I don't want to get burned out. I've seen a lot of burn. Plus I'm just drawing gas off the top, just big creature after big creature, and in my hand I have a Shivan Dragon, which I remember every turn thinking about casting, but I don't because I just don't want to get greedy and tap out for that Chaos Orb. So here I could actually kill the opponent with the Orb by killing his blocker. I decide not to do that just in case there's a Psyblast or something on the Angel. I decide to just play it safe. I don't want to use my Orb on a 1/1 Triskelion. So yeah, I think about it for a while, and then in the end I just decide to attack with both and not really care about putting the Trike back into the graveyard. So opponent's down to 2 and it's looking super bad. And you know, here in the end I do decide that I'm going to tap out and play that Shivan because I figure the only thing that can really beat me is control magic. And yeah, opponent has the counter spell for the Shivan, so oh well, that's sad. I was just very lucky to play big threats at the times when my opponent tapped out, and then he couldn't counter them. And opponent decides he can't win and concedes, so that's game 1. For sideboarding, I bring in 3 Swords to Plowshares and 4 Disenchants. That's because I've seen the Animate Dead and I assume it's some kind of Reanimator deck. I also bring in one red elemental blast because it's kind of useful against counter spells and any other shenanigans. So I side out all of my stone rains because I put the opponent on a reanimator deck, which I think is probably super fast, and I just didn't see the deck do what it was supposed to do. I'm not sure if this was right or wrong. In hindsight, perhaps this was the wrong choice. I should have probably taken out maybe Sylvan Library or some of the 1 toughness cards, but I didn't know at the time. So let's go into game 2. Awesome playmat from the opponent as well. Really liking that one. And yeah, here we go. Start with a turn 1 Mana Vault. So this is where I know in game 1 we just didn't see what this deck is supposed to do. So it's a very good thing I side in all of those removal spells and disenchant, because we're actually playing with mana burn in this format. So this is probably the best answer to the sushi that I could have, because he takes 4 damage. Remember, you can only untap Mana Vault in your upkeep, so this is an absolute brutal blowout. It really makes up for the fact that I don't have any early creatures, because I've just done 5 damage basically on turn 2, and you know, that's good enough for me. And here we have a wheel. It's a bit disappointing because I haven't got maximum value out of it, but my hand is just all land, so I'm not super worried about it. And the reason that I kept that hand was because it had Disenchant and Sylvan Library, and it had lands, and I just figured that I would, you know, draw into stuff, but I just drew more lands. So actually this wheel really helped me because it just drew me into a much better hand than I had before. And yeah, I just slam and earn them down. So opponent's taking 1. Maybe I forget that. No, there we go. So the Abyss is a card that would be absolutely brutal here. I can't remember what happens in this game. And yeah, opponent wants to play a different land. You know, I'm completely cool with that. If you want to take it back straight away after playing it, I'm not going to say no. I think this is just all about having fun, and you know, I want to play against someone's best. I don't want to beat them because they accidentally put the wrong card on the table. And there we go, bye-bye to Earnham. So that's a real shame there. It's that's a good answer from my opponent because most of the cards in his deck don't interact that well with the Djinns. So I think here I don't have any more land. Yeah, I don't, because I actually discarded a lot to that wheel. So it's kind of good because I've got lots of gas, but not so good because, you know, I can't play some of my big stuff. And there we go, a fireball to clear out both of those lions. Absolutely brutal. So I think at this point my hand is quite good, but it's just got lots of expensive cards in it. I think I have Serra Angels. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, so I just play another lion and pass. Perhaps I should have sided some of these cards out, as they're not that good against his deck with all the fireballs and the Triskelions, but I was going for a plan of trying to beat him down quickly before he can do any kind of crazy shenanigans. And so here opponent untaps the Mana Vault. I'm okay with that. It's essentially like skipping your turn, so that's going to give me a really good chance to draw a land and slam something big here. So yeah, that's exactly what happens. Serra Angel. So this is a really bad position for the burn deck to be in, because it needs to use its burn spells on my creatures, but then if it does that, it can't use them against my face. So knowing now that it's a burn deck, I can see this is a really bad situation that he's in. At the time, I had no idea because I thought it was some kind of control deck. Also, drawing cards like Felwar Stone are just really not that helpful against a creature beatdown. And so yeah, we can see here Psyblast against the Angel. So opponent's life total is dropping lower and lower. At this point, I have at least one bolt in hand. So I know that if I can get the opponent down more, then I can finish him off with burn. I think I actually have 2 bolts in hand. I can't remember though. And so here comes Elvish Archer, and I really like this card, especially in Xpoints, where not everyone is playing with all the powerful cards, so there's less factories out there, and there's more creature combat. But unfortunately, opponent has Triskelion and just cleans up my cards. Opponent's got quite a few 2-for-1s in this game, but is still just at a super low life total. Fortunately, because the opponent has drawn quite a few low impact cards, like Felwar Stone, it's allowed me to stabilize, even though I've received 2-for-1s. And yeah, and there's a counterspell on the Sylvan Library. Definitely agree with that, especially with me at such a high life total. So I actually have no idea what's in my hand. I don't remember at all. Maybe I have a swords. I feel like I have some way to kill this Triskelion, I just don't remember. I think I'm very wary of putting it in the graveyard because I know he has Animate Dead. So yeah, there we go. I attempt to swords it, and let's see what the opponent does. Being a Reanimator style deck, I assume the opponent is going to use the Triskelion to shoot itself, but he actually doesn't. He just wants to gain a life. So I'm not sure how good that is because he's at 9, which is still 3 bolts. 9 and 7, it doesn't really make too much difference. But you never know, I might be able to sneak in 1 damage somewhere, so it could be useful. And I get a bit greedy here. I could have gotten the Urnham back, but I choose to get the Shivan back. The reason that I do that is because I don't want him to animate dead the Shivan, because I think I can't beat that. And also because Shivan Dragon is awesome, and that's how I want to win. So I'm not sure if that's the optimal play. I'm just trying to not lose to an animate dead, because I feel I'm quite far ahead. And yeah, I draw a Curd Ape. So that's the first one, I believe, of this game. And my opponent, I remember, has an amazing answer for it. So my opponent has City in a Bottle, which destroys all Arabian Nights cards. And now we're going to see, I'm going to just proceed to draw all the Arabian Nights cards off the top of my deck. So here we just play draw go for a while. I'm continuing to just draw Arabian cards. I actually do draw a land, but unfortunately it's a City of Brass, so I can't play it to play the Shivan. And yeah, so we're just stuck in draw go for a while. So at this point, I decided not to play the Shivan. The reason why is because I've seen counter spells, and I drew a red blast. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to wait until I can get 1 extra land, and I can red blast any counter spell against the Shivan. So perhaps I'm playing it too safe. You can see I have to start discarding. There we go. I discard a City of Brass. So remember, I couldn't play those because of the City in a Bottle. And opponent has a Triskelion. So now I'm starting to get worried. Luckily, I have a Swords for it. So opponent decides to shoot me and shoot itself. So that's why the opponent doesn't get any more life. And obviously he's shooting itself, so it goes to the graveyard and he can use Animate Dead on it in the future. But that turns out to be a potentially game-changing play, which we'll see in a second. So obviously these draw go moments are not the best to watch. Let me know if you want me to cut these out. I will cut some of them out if I think it's too long. But yeah, do let me know. Do you prefer me to play the videos at a faster speed? Do you prefer me to cut things out? I'm still just experimenting with making gameplay videos, so yeah, it would be super nice to know what you guys think. And there it is, there's the Shivan. Now I feel awesome because I know that the opponent's dead next turn, and I'm going to do it with the Shivan Dragon, which is one of my favorite cards. So I'm feeling absolutely great about this. I also have a Red Blast backup in case there's any blue shenanigans like Control Magic or something. And then the Abyss comes down, and I feel super sad. Again, this is the second time I've played my dragon, and it's just gone straight to the graveyard. End of turn, I'm thinking if I should bolt the opponent. Yeah, I decided to do that. So this is going to put the opponent down to 6. I untap, sack my dragon, feel super sad about that. So here, yeah, I just go for it. I've drawn bolt number 3, and yeah, opponent's just gonna get it. I've got a Red Blast backup in case there's counter magic as well. And yeah, opponent just doesn't have anything to stop that, so that's GG's. So I'll be posting the top 8 match, which came after this one as well. So if you want to see what happened in the top 8, please do watch that match too. So 2-0 to PONZA Zoo.